right, good day and welcome to today's edition of our show. And as always, we're glad you could join us. This is Political Spectrum coming to you live from Uyo, the state's capital. And I remain your host, Onumese Ehinoma Olusegun. Now, as always, first on President Tinubu's administration's calendar, today is November the 22nd. It's a Wednesday, 2023. And it marks exactly 179 days of President Bola Tinubu in office as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This is now exactly 5 months and 27 days as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Now, as always, we bring to you developments along both national and subnational areas in our nation's polity. And we start with a statistics from Budget. Budget is a civil society organization, but more of digital services tracking government activities. And it's an alarming statistic stating certain amounts that the states of the Federation have spent. So we have states spend 1.7 trillion on trips, internal, external trips, meals, lavish bouquets, and others. The same states borrowed 988 billion naira. Now, the 36 states of the Federation have spent 1.7 trillion, a whopping 1.7 trillion on recurrent expenditures, including allowances, foreign trips, office stationaries, aircraft maintenance, and more in the first 9 months of 2023. Now, this is according to an analysis of their budget performance sourced from Open Nigeria States, a budget-backed website that serves as a repository of government budget data. Now, 24 states that were analyzed had budget implementation data covering the first 3 quarters of the year, while 12 states had data for first 2 quarters of the year. The states cumulatively spent 802.4 billion on salaries across the data period available. But isolating this data, we set to focus on other recurrent spending items. Now, if salaries were added, total recurrent spending would have been 2.52 trillion. Other recurrent spending items covered in this report include the amount spent on foreign and domestic travel, internet access fees, entertainment, foodstuff, honorarium, sitting allowance, wardrobe allowance, telephone bills, electricity charges, stationery, anniversary special days welfare, aircraft maintenance, and more. Now, of the 36 states, only 30 states have disbursed security votes, 87.45 billion so far. Also, the total borrowings of the states grew to 988 billion as of the 3rd quarter of 2023, the first 9 months of 2023. Now, Abia spent 17.61 billion on housing, rent allowance, meal subsidy, entertainment allowance, wardrobe allowance, name it, including telephone charges, local international travels, office stationaries, maintenance services, consulting, and professional services, fuel, financial recharge, miscellaneous expenses, and others. Now, in the first 2 quarters, let's come to Akwa Ibom. Akwa Ibom spent 92.54 billion on allowance and special contributions, social benefits, travel and transport, utilities such as electricity charges, internet access charges, and more materials and supplies such as office stationery, drugs. You can continue to name it, training, and more. Now, so far, the state has spent 10 million on hosting and mobilization of political associations and interest groups, 841.83 million on entertainment and meetings, and more recently, media reported that state governments borrowed about 46.1 billion from 3 banks to pay salaries between January and June. Oh, are you worried? Okay, let's go on. Now, borrowing for recurrent expenditure is a growing concern to economists. Now, an economist and former Vice Chancellor of the University of Uyo, Professor Akpan Ekpo, recently told media sources, and I quote him, "The situation is bad, but most states do not have enough in terms of internally generated revenue. A lot of the states, even their federal government allocations, cannot pay salaries, which is very dangerous. You should not borrow to pay salaries. You should borrow to finance capital projects. States have to think of new ways of increasing their IGRs. If they continue borrowing to pay salaries, it is not good for the economy. Meanwhile, let's move to Ondo State. The Ondo State government has also denied media reports that the state governor, Mr. Rotimi Akeredolu, spent the sum of 7.3 billion without the approval of the State House of Assembly. That's extra budgetary spending. Now, the chief press secretary to the governor, Mr. Richard Olatunde, in a statement on Tuesday said, and I quote, "It is important to state unequivocally that the referenced 7.3 billion constituted the cumulative amount of palliative funds received from the federal government. These funds were allocated under the contingency subheading to address unforeseen expenses not initially budgeted for, but deemed necessary during the fiscal year." Now, that is Akeredolu's government aide responding that rather to say was spent spent outside the approval of the House of Assembly, it was part of the palliative. Now, we leave that for you to think. If you look at those figures closely, I don't know whether our producer can put back those slides on the budget points. If you look at those figures very seriously, you will find out that one, insolvency is a major issue in the states. Can the states actually be economically viable? Will they stop depending solely on allocations that are not even enough to pay salaries of the state? Will they find other novel ways to generate internally generated revenues? And for crying out loud, will states stop borrowing ceaselessly and creating an economic deficit and vacuum in their states and the successors that they eventually leave the state for? All these questions are questions that are supposed to be asked of the executive governors. We understand that some of them will come up and say, we're not generating as much as possible, and as such, we must continue to borrow. For how long are we going to be borrowing and be deepening the depths of the state? At what point will the state no longer even be the state-owned state? At what point will the people who have been borrowing now say, okay, we must run these states until we get back our monies? All these are things we're supposed to ponder on. And kudos to Budget for always implementing the Freedom of Information Act and giving us an open source as to government spendings and borrowings and for what. You can see a lot of frivolities there. You see a lot of trips and a lot of association meetings and a lot of activities that ideally government can avoid spending huge sums of money on. Food for thought. Now let's move to the next development, and this time we're traveling to Rivers. Now, Rivers Assembly crisis has refused to go away. We saw a video of Edison Ahie alleging that gunmen attack him and his family in his home. Now, the leader of a factional group in the Rivers State House of Assembly, Edison Ahie, who insists he is still the speaker, although he's now referred to as the factional speaker, says he escaped death on Sunday after an attack on his residence. Ahie confirmed the attack on Monday morning, saying, yes, indeed, I'm quoting him now, yes, indeed, it was crazy, but my house has been taken over by heavy security and they are doing a security sweep of the whole compound. The lawmaker added that he would hold a press conference later on to address the issue. He was responding to a statement published on Facebook. The statement said at about 11 p.m. on Sunday, a group of armed thugs and rogues, police officers led by a superintendent of police attached to the CTU B3 Rivers State and a chief superintendent of police attacked Ahie's residence with an intention to assassinate Mr. Speaker and his family. However, the thugs and rogue police officers led by the two above named police officers in Rivers State were vehemently repelled in a gun battle by the official security details attached to the speaker, Right Honorable Barrister Ehie Edison, DSSRS. Now, reacting, the police command's spokesperson Grace Irige Koko said the CP has reached out to the officers involved and they are coming to the command headquarters to meet the CP. SP Irifeke London is the immediate past camp commandant of the Rivers State government house, who was redeployed after the current governor was tear-gassed. Now, recall that following the October 29 fire that razed the House of Assembly, there was an attempt by a faction to remove Ehie from his position as leader by lawmakers loyal to Martins Amewule, but retaliated and declared himself speaker, sparking a legislative crisis in the House of Assembly. I know my producers have the video of Barrister Ehie, that is the Speaker of the House of Assembly. Let's listen to what he said in the video before we see what the new police commissioner has said.
The preliminary investigations we have done so far this morning has not revealed any assassination attempt. All I knew was that police officers were on patrol, convoy patrol. Is a routine thing. And we have made frantic effort to get across to the leader to give us any information he has so that we can include it in what we already have. So far, so good. Nothing to worry about. My plea to him and every other person is, if there's any complaint, my number is going to be made public. They should call me quickly and I will quickly look into it. So for now, you have not received any official complaint? For now, I haven't gotten anything like that. The preliminary investigations we have done so far this morning has not revealed any assassination attempt. All I knew was that police officers were on patrol, convoy patrol. Is a routine thing. And we have made frantic effort to get across to the leader to give us any information he has so that we can include it in what we already have. So far, so good. Nothing to worry about. My plea to him and every other person is, if there's any complaint, my number is going to be made public. They should call me quickly and I will quickly look into it. So for now, you have not received any official complaint?
Leader of a group in the State Assembly is alleging assassination attempts to his life.
If it is sacrificing my life that will give victory to Rivers State, then I am ready to do that. The only regret I will have is that my young wife and 2 little children, but life must go on, and I am sure God will see them through. I stand with the governor of Rivers State, Sir Siminalayi Fubara, voted in by Rivers people and representing the welfare of Rivers people. Nothing, no threat, no intimidation, no allegation now or in the future will stop or deter. Sacrificing my life that will give victory to Rivers State.
All right, that was the speech from the factional speaker stating categorically what his experience was, especially with him and his family in his residence. Now, he's saying, or he said in the video, that he remains loyal to the executive governor of Rivers State, duly elected by the people, and that no amount of intimidation or rabble-rousing will remove or renege his loyalty to the executive governor. Of course, at this point, we already know what is happening and who he may be referring to. And at the same time, I think Rivers State also received a new commissioner of police, which was a man who spoke, saying very clearly that he has come to nip the issue of the crisis in Rivers State in the bud. Of course, we all know that political crises in Rivers are always very bloody, and it's one of the states in the south that is most violent. And I don't know, for the lack of an appropriate word, it is a flashpoint of major violence, especially when it comes to political differences or even the political process itself. So we hope that the earlier Rivers State settles down for the governor to be able to start to, share dividends of democracy, the better. And whatever it is that is the rift between the immediate past governor and the executive governor, at least one must shift for one so that there will be peace in Rivers State. As we speak, the State House of Assembly is still completely divided. Amewule holds one, and Edison Ehie holds one. When will it be resolved? Your guess is as good as mine. We'll wait, and until the development comes, we are sure to feed you with every other necessary information as possible. Now, let's quickly move to another development that we monitored, and that is a little bit also sensitive because it was talking about the very, very first indigene or the first gentleman of Lagos State, talking about the executive governor himself. And there are allegations that despite digital footprints, that means despite evidences, Governor Sanwo-Olu falsely claims procurement document of 200 million legal fees was not from Lagos website. Now, substantive evidence has shown that the Lagos governor brazenly or allegedly lied that the document exposing his alleged mindless misappropriation of taxpayers' money was from an unknown origin after it drew controversy among Nigerians. Even though the document was uploaded on Lagos State Procurement website, which was still there as a Tuesday evening on PDF format, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has denied vehemently paying 200 million to lawyers to help counter a personal lawsuit over his eligibility for re-election. Is it sensitive? Oh, hell yes, it is. Now, Mr. Sanwo-Olu said the document exposing the mindless looting of Lagos was from an unknown origin after it drew controversy among Nigerians, scolding opposition politician Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour for amplifying it on social media. Now, I want to quote him. The allegation was supported by a document that neither carried the logo of Lagos State government nor the endorsement of any of its officials. Mr. Sanwo-Olu had said in a statement signed on his behalf by Gbenga Omotosho, his information commissioner. Continue, and I quote, "It was simply another ploy to deceive the public about a non-existent payment of 50 million to 4 lawyers. But the document was simply downloaded from the state-run portal holding documents for already awarded contracts to vendors." Now, while several other expenditures have been deemed outrageous by Nigerians and widely condemned, the suspicious payment to 4 different law firms, which were specifically billed as settlements for a pre-election lawsuit brought by the opposition PDP party on Mr. Sanwo-Olu's eligibility, carried even more severe criminal implications, as Governor Sanwo-Olu was supposed to use state funds to settle was not supposed to use state funds to settle personal lawsuits. Now, Anti-Corruption Office EFCC prosecuted a senior lawyer, Paul Usoro, for accepting funds directly from state coffers to represent former Governor Udom Emmanuel at the Election Petition Tribunal between 2015 and 2016. Recall, Mr. Udom could not be charged at the time because he was a serving governor and entitled to constitutional immunity, Article 308, I remember, from the Constitution. But lawyers have no such immunity and could be made to account for conniving with politicians to fleece the public funds. Now, Mr. Sanwo-Olu's denial could have staved off an anti-graft investigation of lawyers who were paid 50 million each, which include Babatunde Ogala, Muyiwa Akimboro, Ahmed Raji, and Femi Okunu, Messrs. Now, Messrs. Raji and Ogala were contacted for comments. A spokesperson for the EFCC did not immediately return a request seeking comments. Now, the Lagos government also mischaracterized the documents as containing proposed budgetary expenses, even though they were clearly marked as containing letters of already awarded and settled contract for state vendors. Now, it was part of the state's monthly procurement disclosure, which were mandated by the World Bank and other international organizations seeking to bolster transparency across Nigeria. Now, most of Nigeria's 36 states have dedicated websites for procurement activities. Now, the latest controversy over Mr. Sanwo-Olu's dubious use of public funds returned to headlines over the weekend after an opposition politician, Funsho Doherty, wrote an open letter to the governor in which he highlighted all questionable contracts and their financial implications for the state. Now, but after several days of silence, the governor sought to push back thereafter on the controversy, falsely blaming Mr. Rosvivo, the Labour Party governorship candidate in the March 2023 election, for circulating unverified information. Follow me. Mr. Rosvivo on November 19, 2023, alleged without any proof whatsoever that the Lagos State government funded Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's legal dispute after the March 18 elections, 2023. This is not true. I'm quoting Sanwo-Olu now. Mr. Omotosho falsely stated in a statement Tuesday afternoon here. Now, the commissioner did not return a request seeking comments about why he would impugn on the credibility of a document that was downloaded from the state's website. Nonetheless, he said in a statement that Mr. Sanwo-Olu would desist from misappropriating public funds in disregard of his oath in office. The allegations and criticisms back and forth have been generating a lot of heat. Now, questions come to mind. Do you take from the state coffers to pay for some private activities? And nowadays, it has become very glaring that the internet and the use of technology has revolutionized a lot of things. There are some things you will do that before you even cough, you already have issues with them, because there are footprints everywhere. People can see with evidences, back and forth, and coming to even deny it will even make it worse, especially when it gets to the level of an executive governor of a state. All right, we still have many more stories or many more developments that we're going to be sharing with you. Let's quickly take a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
I'm not afraid of death. If it is sacrificing my life that will give victory to Rivers State, then I am ready to do that. The only regret I will have is that my young wife and 2 little children, but life must go on, and I am sure God will see them through. I stand with the governor of Rivers State, Sir Siminalayi Fubara, voted in by Rivers people and representing the welfare of Rivers people. Nothing, no threat, no intimidation, no allegation now or in the future will stop or deter my position.
Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moino has presented a budget estimate of 845.632 billion naira for the 2024 fiscal year to the State House of Assembly for consideration and approval. Governor Ino, who made the presentation on the floor of the state legislature, said the 2024 budget estimates christened a rise budget for growth and expansion. is made up of 352.917 billion naira for recurrent expenditure and 492.715 billion naira for capital expenditure. The governor told the lawmakers that the implementation strategy will be to partner with foreign investors, widen infrastructure base of the state, and expand and maintain infrastructure services in healthcare, amongst others.
As we review the performance of the 2023 budget, I'd like to inform you that a total of 850 billion was approved for the 2023 fiscal year, with a total recurrent expenditure of 394 billion and the capital vote of 455 billion.
Governor Ino, who thanked the 8th Assembly for the cooperation and support they've extended to him so far, pledged his readiness to work collaboratively with all, without rancor or acrimony, for the success of Akwa Ibom. He urged the State Assembly on the expeditious approval of the estimates, while assuring of his determination to the faithful implementation of the budget for the well-being of Akwa Ibom people.
I'd like to assure this Honorable House that we will continue to promote the values of Akwa Ibomites everywhere we are. We'll continue to work with Akwa Ibomites in the diaspora to ensure that we harness all of their potentials. And to make this happen, I've appointed a senior special assistant on diaspora matters who will help us coordinate all of our people.
Meanwhile, the Speaker of the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly, Udemotong, has pledged the continued collaboration of the legislature with the executive arm of the government to ensure the implementation of the government's plan for the state and the timely passage of the budget.
In this regard, we have made events through legislations and resolutions that are geared toward giving legal backing to policies, programs, and other activities of this administration, as well as being a lifeline of His Excellency and Rights agenda. So far, we have prepared 2 people-centric bills and 57 motions, some of which are still at committee stage, awaiting scrutiny and public hearings. This would not have been possible without the tremendous support of our dear governor, and it is our expectation that those bills will be given due recognition when the governor assent is given to them.
The state government is proposing a 2024 budget estimate of 845.632 billion naira, as against the approved revised provision of 850 billion naira of 2023, representing a decrease of 0.5% from the 2023 revised budget. In Uyo, Jane Uwa, Spectrum Television News. Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moino.
All right, if you are just joining us, we've been following some of the major developments across the nation's polity, whether at national or subnational level. And we quickly move into another sort of controversial report. Recall that the Kano State governor had earlier been sacked by some court judgment. But here we have it now. Confusion sets in as appeal court certified judgment affirms Kano governor's election. Now, there was palpable confusion in Kano State on Tuesday with the emergence of a certified true copy of the Court of Appeal judgment on the state governorship election. Now, while the widely reported verdict of the court last Friday indicated that the appellate court upheld the decision of the petition tribunal sacking Governor Abba Yusuf, the State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice Haruna Issa Dederi argued that the certified true copy of the judgment showed that Yusuf's victory at the poll was affirmed by the court, the appeal court. Now, Issa Dederi disclosed this while addressing a press conference on Tuesday night. He said, as indicated in the written judgment, the Court of Appeal set aside the judgment of the Kano Election Petition Tribunal for lacking in merit. Now, the evidence contained on page 67 on the copy of the appeal court judgment released on Tuesday and signed by Registrar Jamil Ibrahim Umar, appellate court upheld the victory of Abba Kebiru Yusuf of the New Nigeria People's Party as duly elected governor of Kano, he said. Now, our sources report that the three-member panel of the appeal court had on Friday, November 17, 2023, dismissed the appeal filed by the governor on the basis of his membership status. Now, the appellate court subsequently affirmed Nasiru Gawuna of the APC as the winner of March 25th, 2023 governorship poll in the state. Now, the question is, which one do we believe? The Attorney General of the state, the current Attorney General of the state, where Kabir Yusuf is still governor, although it has been pronounced that he has been sacked, is saying that the certified true copy upheld his position as governor. But here we have another information from the appellate court saying he has been sacked, and the APC candidate is now substantive governor. So the question is, which one do we believe? All right, still moving on and still on the political party NNPP. NNPP welcomes Atiku's call for merger of opposition parties. Now, the new Nigeria People's Party NNPP has welcomed the call by Vice President Atiku Abubakar for the merger of opposition parties to wrestle power from the ruling APC. Now, the party's position was made public in a press conference addressed by the acting national chairman of the party, Abba Kawu Ali, in Abuja on Tuesday. Ali said, and I like to quote, just recently, former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar was reported to have called for a merger of opposition parties as a way of checkmating the inordinate drive of the ruling APC towards a one-party state and protecting our hard-earned democracy. The NNPP sees this call of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar as patriotic and a welcome development for which which the political party itself unreservedly commends him. Now, the NNPP, however, has modifications to the collaboration being proposed by Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. It is our belief that such an arrangement should be all-encompassing and broad. Now, to the former vice president's call, our party notes that this was the same bold initiative that the opposition parties signed up to in 2015, and which enabled the merger that led to the defeat of the then ruling PDP. Now, to that extent, the NNPP is reiterating its position that the former vice president's latest call is a proposal we applaud wholeheartedly. NNPP spokesperson still speaking. However, as we stated earlier, while we fully embrace this initiative and applaud it as a matter of necessity, the NNPP is looking at these issues from a more larger perspective, considering all factors inherent in it. I'll continue to quote them. Our party, without any iota of doubt, is open to collaboration, alliance, and any arrangement with any of all the political parties, including PDP, Labour Party, and APC, so long as such collaborations, alliance, or arrangements will be in the utmost interest of the Nigerian people and the protection and consolidation of Nigeria's democracy. Now, at the moment, according to them, we are studying the mood of the country and the political atmosphere. NNPP will welcome from any political party any initiative and oblige any invitation towards discussing any arrangement aimed at protecting our people, our democracy, and towards the much desired, accelerated, and sustainable development of our country. Now, they are wrapping up, and I still quote them. Thankfully, the whole country is not unmindful of the populist profile of the NNPP, which draws its strength from our well-thought-out constitution and manifesto, as well as a robust Kwankwansia movement dedicated to the emancipation of the common man. It is for this singular reason of being a refuge of succor for the oppressed and largely dispossessed majority in our society that the Kwankwansia movement, and indeed the NNPP, are consolidating and spreading its wings across the communities in Nigeria's north. Not only north, southeast, west, and beyond the shores of our country, they said. Now, I'm sure the emergence of the Kwankwansia movement has shocked a few people, because recall that some few months ago, the presidential flag bearer was suspended. I don't know whether he was even completely expelled, stating categorically by the National Working Committee, saying that he probably did not carry them along in the discussions of a merger. And because the National Working Committee was not carried along in discussion of a merger, he has been involved in anti-party activities and anti-social activities, and they quoted some part of the constitution of the political party and suspended Alhaji Musa Rabiu Kwakwanso. But a lot of people will be arguing now, but the NNPP is popular because of the Kwankwansia movement, of which is the brainchild of Alhaji Musa Kwakwanso. And the reason for which it was suspended, which is a major talk with the other presidential candidates, is the same reason they are bringing to the fore now to discuss, that they are looking at the broader picture but may not mind a form of political merger. Now, smartly, they have even broadened it by not only speaking with the speaking about the willingness to join forces with PDP to take away APC. They are also even saying that even if the APC suggests a merger, they don't mind. And yet again, they come to say the political party NNPP has a structured constitution and a structured manifesto. Is that not saying one thing in one tongue and in another breath saying another? All these questions are lingering in the minds of onlookers of our nation's polity. Which way NNPP? What will eventually become of the NNPP, since the pillar of the party has been suspended and accused of anti-party activities, but the NNPP has not even made up his mind as to which party it intends to merge with. All right, away from that, we'll go to quickly go to the National Assembly, where the Labour Party senators have protested and kicked against the appointment of Abba Moro as Senate Minority Leader. Senators under the Labour Party have kicked against the emergence of Senator Abba Moro as the Minority Leader, and Senator Abba Moro as the Minority Leader and Senator Osita Angu as the military whip in the Senate on Tuesday. Now, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, appointed Moro and Ungu, who are senators under the People's Democratic Party. But a rowdy session ensued following the protest. Now, the Labour Party lawmakers said out of the 4 minority positions for principal officers, the PDP has occupied 3, while the remaining position will go to the new Nigerian party, that's NNPP. Aside from Moro and Ngu representing Benue South and Enugu West respectively, the deputy minority leader, Oyewumi Olalere, representing Osun West, is also off the PDP stock. Now, recall that the seats of the Senate minority leader and minority whip became vacant after the Court of Appeal sacked the former occupants, which is Senator Simon Davu Mwadkon, PDP Plateau North. Of course, all of us are following the story of how a lot of PDP House of Rep members have been sacked. And also recall that of Darlington Nwokwancha, Labour Party, Abia Central, respectively. Now, the appellate court nullified the election of Mwadkon and ordered a rerun while Nwokwancha was sacked and replaced by Senator Augustine Akobundu of the PDP by the appeal court last week. Now, the PDP senators held a crucial meeting at the National Assembly Complex, Abuja, on the choice of replacement for the position of principal positions of Senate Minority Leader and Minority Whip. Now, Senator Garba Maidoki, PDP Bauchi, who briefed journalists after the closed-door meeting, had said the opposition lawmakers settled for the North Central Geopolitical Zone to produce minority leader. Now, this now led to the announcement of Moro and Ngu as minority leaders and minority whip by the Senate President at the plenary. Now, let's listen to what Akpabio said. Akpabio said the new minority leaders had the majority support of their colleagues in the opposition. Now, he said 41 minority senators signed the document endorsing Abba Moro as minority leader, while 30 backed Ngu for the minority whip seat. Meanwhile, the Labour Party, which has 6 senators, opposed the development, saying the position that was earlier ceded to the caucus has now been taken over by the PDP. Citing a point of order, Senator Okechukwu Ezea, Labour Party Enugu North, protested the absence of his party in the minority leadership, insisting that the arrangement was an injustice against other minority parties. Following the point of order by Isaiah, the chamber became rowdy, with Labour Party lawmakers angrily rejecting the exclusion of their party from the position of principal officers. Now, amid the uproar, Senator Tony Mwonye, Labour Party Anambra North, accused Akpabio of picking minority leaders for the opposition parties. Now, he says, and I quote, "How can you be choosing minority leaders for us? Are we your slaves?" When you tackled the Senate President, the APC senators made frantic efforts to assuage their LP colleagues' agitations, some of whom approached Akpabio for consultation. Now, after a few minutes that calm was restored, the Senate President addressed the opposition lawmakers and dismissed the claim of his interfering in the affairs of the opposition. All right, let us quickly watch the video, then we'll get back to the story.
Slaves. The way you were elected was the way you were elected. Are we your slaves? How else you can suspend me here? Are we your slaves? Every time you keep on picking leadership for us. We are not your slaves. Whether you like it or not, the way you were elected was the way we were elected. We are not your slaves. The way you were elected was the way we were elected. How else you can suspend me? You have done your worst, Mr. President. What do you mean by that? You have done your worst. You have done your worst. You have put us to the wall. Thank you. Yes, we'll start with that. Meaning what? Meaning what? Meaning what? Meaning what? It's unfair. It's unfair. It's not about me, it's not about any person. It's about the institution of Senate. Thank you, sir. Meaning what? Every time you give me tomorrow, they want to contest election. They want to win us. He's looking us. So I told you that they will run the court. He brings over the police part of them. Give a common, give a common.
All right, there you have the video with Nwoye asking directly, are we your slaves? Now, when you talk with the Senate President, the APC senators made frantic efforts to assuage their Labour Party colleagues' agitations. Now, some of whom approached Akpabio for consultations. Now, after a few minutes that calm was restored, the Senate President addressed the opposition lawmakers and dismissed the claims of his interfering in the affairs of the opposition. Now, Akpabio said he only announced the names forwarded to him by the opposition caucus and that it would be unfair not to respect the voice of majority. Now, here you have the whole situation. Why will some people feel that the Senate President may probably be choosing key officers for them? Are there things unfolding within the Senate that a lot of us do not know? And if you see, majority of those agitations were from Labour Party people, and a lot of the reps that were even complaining are from the East. So is there any political structure or political organogram being rearranged by His Excellency the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, that some of the senators are reacting to? Or is there more that meets the eye? And then a lot of other issues will come to mind. The proceedings and all the processes and the argument back and forth, especially at the Red Chamber, is it in the interest of the average common Nigerian? Are they not supposed to be spending this time doing proper legislative work to ease the life and the standard and welfare of the average Nigerian? All these questions continue to linger, and you will agree with me that this past 10th Assembly has been bittersweet, interesting, because there's always been activities, there's always been a tussle for interest, there's always been complaints, there's always been fight between this faction and the other. And a lot of questions will come to mind as to how successful the 10th National Assembly, especially the Senate, will be at the end of the 4-year cycle. All right, I think we're due for a break now. We're going to break. Thereafter, we'll be right back to continue on the show. Join us again.
For premium broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news around the world, watch Spectrum TV on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
The narrative which I assert is that every village, town, nation, or region has its socio-cultural peculiarities that are
have a system of government in which we have no hands to define and design, and we continue with it, even when we know that it is not working Those who brought it to us are now questioning the rightness of their invention, its deliverability. We have a system of government in which we have no hands to define and design, and we continue with it, even when we know that it is not working for us. Those who brought it to us are now questioning the rightness of their invention, its deliverability.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Christmas season is here again. Are you aware that making your business or products visible on a television space gives your brand a wider visibility and patronage? In the spirit of the season, Spectrum Television is offering a whopping 25% discount on all the services. Advertise your products and services while this offer lasts from 1st December 2023 to January 31st, 2024. We are a television with a passion to take your business and services on a satisfactory lane. You do not want to miss this opportunity. For more inquiries, visit our city office at number 2 Taft Plaza Close off Akaitinen Road, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, or call the following numbers on your screen. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
All right, welcome back and many thanks for staying tuned. If you're just tuned in, well, we are almost towards the threshold of the end of the show. This is Political Spectrum, coming to you live from the studios in Uyo, the state's capital. And so far so good, we have brought to the fore some of the developments bordering our nation's polity and political economy. Recall that Tinubu has been to Germany and also witnessed a $500 million renewable energy pact and gas export agreement. Now here we have a president who has not relented ever since he has joined he has started his administration since 29th of May of this year, going from the west to the eastern part of the globe, trying to woo investors to contribute towards the gross domestic product of Nigeria and ultimately boost its economy through foreign direct investment. So if the president is doing all this, including even strengthening his relationship with captains of industry, as at the last time with the CBN governor, as well as the coordinating minister of finance, stating that we can grow Nigeria into a $1 trillion economy, and then you will be worried by the first story we took about the civil society budget exposing the unnecessary expenses of our state executive governors. And it is bad enough that we have states that are completely insolvent and not economically viable, and they run to the center in Abuja to collect monthly stipends, than come back to the state and work out modalities with which it can generate revenue that will sustain the state. And now budget has tracked all the activities using the Freedom of Information Act to see that even the frivolous spendings of executive governors has called for a lot of concern. When governors don't have money, rather than look inwards and probably cut on austerity measures, what they do is look for where there is free resources from foreign organizations and then borrow, continue to borrow until it gets to the limit where states cannot even work out a repayment plan. Why? Because the states are not even making enough revenue as we speak. So if we juxtapose the activities of the executive governors at the subnational level with the efforts of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu moving up and down and trying as much as possible to make sure that Nigeria enjoys more of the foreign direct investments, you now begin to wonder, are these leaders, whether at federal or subnational level, are these leaders actually within the same administration? Are the agenda of these leaders a different one? Is it that the visions are not clear? For the first time, Nigeria has not been in the lowest of lows when it comes to the purchasing power parity of the Naira. Recall that earlier this year, there was also the removal of fuel subsidy that has erupted a lot of cataclysmic economic reactions. in such a way that even the nation, the average Nigerian citizen, cannot afford three square meals. There is no power in the naira. Even what they earned before that has not been increased, right now what it used to be able to buy can no longer buy it. And then you find out that our leaders are just dipping their hands into our common patrimony and using it as much as they want. All this calls for a lot of concern. You recall also about the current coordinating minister of the economy, Mr. Wale Edun, promising in different fora that Nigeria is preparing and expecting billions of dollars as we also continue to borrow. Now, how long are we going to continue to borrow? And what are the modalities with which we are going to use to pay back? Some financial experts have come and said, okay, you can still borrow more, but create some 45 years moratorium. Moratorium is actually a period where you can let the monies work, you know, to develop the economy and to continue to generate and sustain the economy so that you can now start generating funds and start on a repayment plan. Even at that, what are the things that are clear that Nigeria can apply, to make all these foreign institutions sure that Nigeria is ready to make the payment? Recall that the very last time Nigeria offset its debt was during President Olusegun Obasanjo, who consciously and as a matter of strategy decided that, okay, Nigeria must have a reasonable reserve in tens of billions of dollars, and Nigeria must try to pay back so that it will be relieved of the remaining of his debts. And that was one of the major legacies that Chief Olusegun Obasanjo left in his administration, that if he looks back at, he can still be proud of. But since then till now, look at the administration of Umar Musa Yar'Adua. After that was the administration of Goodluck Jonathan, and the billions running to trillions that has been borrowed. And then it got worse under the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, where the money went into tens of trillions and 20s of trillions. And as we speak, even under the administration of President Bola Tinubu, the borrowing still continues. The major assets with which Nigeria can use to generate enough revenue are grounded and moribund. The question that comes to your mind is, which way Nigeria? Now look at the governors. Apart from Rivers State and Lagos State and probably one or two other states, a lot of the states do not even have reasonable amount of internally generated revenue. And the few of the states that have decided to even generate revenues do so by overtaxing the citizens. Aside overtaxing the citizens, you even see duplication of taxes, making the life of the average indigents within those states very unbearable. There's been advices by different pundits, but like they say, it's easy, talk is cheap. There's been advice for this current administration that it must sit down and redesign how it is going to get out of this conundrum. Because it is not even, the problem is not even moving Nigeria forward. The problem now is moving the backlog of debts that have been accrued over the decades in trillions of naira, tens of billions of dollars. Those must be settled first, otherwise it will get to a level where these institutions will now start demanding of some of our assets, and they will be, administering them, and we will just be there without having complete control over some of those assets. It has happened in some of the African countries recently, where some Chinese institutions came in and took control of the assets because those countries were not able to pay such debts. The question is Nigeria gradually getting to that level? Are our leaders even reasoning these things? How long are we going to continue in this path of borrowing? And the most difficult part is borrowing to even cater to recurrent expenditure and amassing your own personal wealth. Nobody is borrowing for capital expenditure. There's been advice by pundits, especially even the International Monetary Fund, that borrowing must be for capital projects or for investment reasons. Now we borrow to finance recurrent expenditure. Look at the figures from budget. Borrow to take care of hospitality, borrow to go to trips abroad, borrow to do lavish parties and buy expensive things. Then the most serious thing is borrow to pay salaries. And when you pay salaries, it's not an investment. So where do we go from here? Is there any hope of this administration taking us away from the conundrum? All these questions are questions that are lingering on the minds of Nigerians. If you even look at the situation of Nigerians in diaspora, there's been an alarm that the number of Nigerians leaving the country has never been in such a proportion. People have lost hope completely on the judiciary. People have lost hope completely on the executive. People have lost hope completely on the economy of Nigeria, and they think that the only thing they can do now is dust their passports and gather their family and seek a better standard of living elsewhere. The question is, if everybody leaves, who then does the repair? Or is Nigeria beyond repair? We want to use this opportunity to reflect on a lot of these issues as we continue to run this organization. And these statements going out to especially our leaders, the elected, democratically elected leaders of the states and the president of Nigeria. We must work out better structures to improve on the life of the average common Nigerian. All right, if you're just tuning in this Political Spectrum, remember that you can drop your comments on social media. You're also free to call us on the phone lines if the phone lines are open to share your own thoughts and opinion, because it's about time that people be concerned about the current situation. Is it getting better or is it getting worse? Do people even read news because of good reasons, or they read news to see which other bad development has occurred? 0704 547707 is the number to call. You can call to reach us and share your opinion on the state of the nation. Remember also that this program is streamed live on YouTube, and you can watch older videos of this edition and some topics and some conversations on YouTube, Spectrum Television. Once you put Spectrum Television, all the informations come out and you can click and watch. Remember to subscribe, like, and turn on your notifications once we are live on air. All right, we'll take a short break there. We'll be right back to throw open the phone lines so that people can call in and have their say on the matter. Remember, you can also send in your comments via social media on X and on Facebook. We'll go on a short break. Join us again.